welcome to Jam Virtual Church. It's really good to be back again with you this week, and we have got an epic story for you this week. It is the story of the fall of Jericho, when the walls come tumbling down. Now, I don't know about you, but what's the furthest or the longest you've ever had to walk? For me, it was about 8 and a bit hours when I did the London Marathon this last year, when I walked it back in October, and I walked round Croxley Green for about 8.5 hours or something bonkers like that. That's probably the longest time I've had to walk. But the people of Israel were told by God that for 7 days they had to march round this city, and on the last day they had to march round it 7 times. They would have been walking for a very long time, but they trusted God. And that today is what our story is all about trusting God and knowing that He is going to send someone to save the world, that He is going to send someone who is going to show us how to follow Him. I hope you have a really great morning. For today, if your parents are watching, you are going to need, for the craft, you're going to need ideally some cracker biscuits or whatever, and some icing sugar and water to make some icing sugar glue. It's quite a complicated craft, so I suggest you watch it when John shows you, and then have a go at it later on, perhaps this afternoon, after your mums and dads have watched church, or maybe while they're watching church, if they've got it set up for you. So have a great morning. Enjoy your time here at Jam Virtual Church, and we will see you again very, very soon.
Give me oil in my lamp, keep me burning. Give me oil in my lamp, I pray. Give me oil in my lamp, keep me burning. Keep me burning till the break of day. Keep me resting till the break of day. Give me love in my heart, I pray.
the warrior leader. After Moses died, God gave his people a new leader. His name was Joshua, which means the Lord saves. Joshua was going to lead God's people into the special land God had promised to give them. By this time, God's people had been wandering around in that baking desert for 40 years. So you can imagine how sick they were of sand and anything yellow, and tents and walking and being hot. And how happy they were to reach the edge of the desert and to see their beautiful new home right there in front of them, all cool and green and lovely. There was only one problem: Jericho. Jericho was a city, but it wasn't just any old city. It was a fortress, and it stopped anyone from getting into the land. The people looked at Jericho, at the big, giant, scary walls all around it, at the tall, towering ramparts, at the heavy iron gates bolted shut. What would they do? No one knew. But God knew, and God told Joshua what to do. But Joshua must have looked surprised, because it was a very odd battle plan indeed, as we'll soon find out. Then God made his people a promise. I will always be with you, and I will never, ever leave you. If you do what I say, your lives in the new land will be happy, and everything will go well. So Joshua gathered his army together. They had their swords and spears and shields. They were ready to fight. But the plan wasn't about fighting. It was about trusting and doing what God said. Joshua's army went marching, marching, marching around the city day after day. "They're too scared to fight," the people in Jericho said. But they were wrong. God's people weren't scared. They were waiting for God to tell them what to do next. On the 7th day, God told his people to march around the city, not once, but 7 times. And then the priests should blow their trumpets. And when the priests blew their trumpets, the people had to make as much noise as they could. Has anyone ever told you to make as much noise as you possibly can? Well, imagine that noise. Add 39,999 other people making that noise too, and you get the idea. Ear splitting. And, as it turned out, stone splitting too, because the huge, strong walls of Jericho just crumbled to the ground, as if they were made of sand. Jericho vanished in a great cloud of dust. So it was that God's people entered their new home. And they didn't have to fight to get in. They only had to walk. Joshua said, "God has brought you safely here. Now, will you do what he says?" Everyone said, "We promise." "Only God can make your heart happy," Joshua said. "So don't pray to pretend gods." "No," they said, "never." I'm afraid they didn't keep their promise. They didn't do what God said. And many years later, just as God had warned them, things would go badly for God's people. They would lose their home. Enemies would capture them and take them off as slaves. And God's people would scatter into many different lands. But God's plan was still working. One day, he would give his people another leader and another home. But this home, no one could ever take away from them.
I'm gonna jump up and down, I'm gonna spin round and round, I'm gonna praise your name forever. I'm gonna shout out loud, gonna deafen the crowd, I'm gonna send my praise to heaven. Gonna jump up and down, I'm gonna spin round and round, I'm gonna praise your name forever. Gonna shout out loud, gonna deafen the crowd, I'm gonna send my praise to heaven. I will run this race and I will never stop. I'll follow Jesus till the day I drop. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When you've got such a lot, when you've got not a lot, what? Be happy. I'm gonna jump up and down, I'm gonna spin round and round, I'm gonna praise your name forever. Gonna shout out loud, gonna deafen the crowd, I'm gonna send my praise to heaven. Gonna jump up and down, I'm gonna spin round and round, I'm gonna praise your name forever. Gonna shout out loud, gonna deafen the crowd, I'm gonna send my praise to heaven. I will run this race and I will never stop. I'll follow Jesus till the day I drop. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When you've got such a lot, when you've got not a lot, what? Be happy. I'm gonna jump up and down, I'm gonna spin round and round, I'm gonna praise your name forever. Gonna shout out loud, gonna deafen the crowd, I'm gonna send my praise to heaven. Gonna jump up and down, I'm gonna spin round and round, I'm gonna praise your name forever. Gonna shout out loud, gonna deafen the crowd, I'm gonna send my praise to heaven. Gonna send my praise to heaven. Gonna send my praise to heaven.
Hello, good morning, it's John here, and I'm going to do some craft with you this morning. Our story about the Battle of Jericho, or in fact the non-Battle of Jericho, we're going to try and reflect it in craft. And I think we're going to try to build that formidable fortress of Jericho as it was seen by Joshua and God's people as they came into the promised land. We're going to try and build that now, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do it. We've got a baseboard that we're going to build on. We're going to use biscuits, and we're going to use to stick them together icing sugar, and we're going to mix up icing sugar into a paste, a very stiff paste, which means a lot of icing sugar and a little bit of water. And only do as much as you need to do for the first part. You can always make some more later. Okay, so I've got some mixed up here. Now just look how stiff that is. Okay, and I haven't got very much, but that's going to do us to start with. Right. So we're going to build our walls around here, and then we're going to elaborate it a bit and make it a bit more complicated. But let's start off with a couple of pieces. Here we go. Because when we get to the end of our story and all the walls tumble down, of course, if we want to, we can eat all the demolition materials. Going to make a corner first, lay the mortar like we would with bricks, put a little bit on the side like that, and get our first one into the corner, and then the second one butting up against it Oh, I haven't put any more mortar on the floor. Let's do that first. Mortar here. That's it. Okay, now they will stick together like that. Hopefully I won't have to touch them again. On we go. Now, with the next one, we just continue the same way. Spread a line on the ground, and then spread some on the brick that we're going to use next. Into position like that. Okay. Now that looks as if it might fall over, so I'm going to do a bit of a buttress. Let's find a little bit that I can work on. Here we are. I've cut one in half, so I'm going to stick that like that to hold it up. So put some cement on there, and some cement on the bottom. That's right. And I'm going to poke that into there. Right, buttress. Okay. You see what we've done? Okay, and we're going to continue now along here. I'll put one more on for now. Cement mortar on the floor and up the side. These are really very nice to eat. I think so anyway. There we are, and now we can turn the next corner. There we are. I'm going to stop here because it's the same, and I'm going to come back to you in a few minutes. You join us just a little bit later when I've managed to complete the walls all the way round. You'll see I've established that the entrance is here, and I put an arch over the entrance, and it seems to be holding up so far. Now, we've got the bases of our Jericho, but we can make it more elaborate. Let's put some towers in. I'm going to put towers in on each corner. I'm going to put a tower in, so let's see how we're going to... There we are. I'm going to put this tower in there. Okay, now another one. These are called thins, I think, but they taste nice with icing sugar on them. There we are, there's a tower there. That's right. That'll stick perfectly as one tower. I'm going to put a top on that tower. A top on that tower. A round top on that tower. Da, 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 da. There we are. I'll break this biscuit out a bit to make a tower. There we are, top on the tower. Get a few more biscuits out, shall we? These are all broken. There's a lot of good in there. You can do just what you like. If you want to make it simpler, you can make it simpler, or you can make it more complicated. It's up to you. see if I can make this a little bit. There we are. And here's a corner bit. That can go on there. And then we can put some things on, perhaps on these buttresses. There we go. And maybe up there at the side of the buttress. Stick them all on though. So we can have walkways up here. Now we're getting really quite complicated, aren't we? Well, we can go on and on. I'm going to leave it there. Let's have a look and see what we've got. We've got the door coming in. We've got towers at the front. We've got sideways and we've got walkways. And we can have another layer up here of ornament. Some places defensive walls. I'll tell you what. We've had a wall fall down. There we go. Let's put that wall back up again. That tower back up again. There we are. Now, I just happen to have found some little Jewish priests in their priestly robes. There we are. I've got a whole lot of these, and I'm going to stick those round here as they walk round. What do you mean they're Father Christmases? No, they're not. I know that Father Christmas wasn't around in the days of the Battle of Jericho. These are Jewish priests, and I'm going to stick them on the outside. They're marching round. Perhaps it's just before the 7th day. This is how you do it. Put a bit of stuff on their stick. There we go. There's a Jewish priest. He might have to lean up against the wall for a bit. They haven't got flat bottoms, have they? Tell you what, we'll get them standing like this. They're not very obedient Jewish priests. Now stand up, Jewish priests. You're determined to tip over, aren't you? There we go. Let's have another one. They've all gone over. Alright, you can just lean up against the wall like that then. Well, it does seem a shame now, doesn't it, to make all the walls come tumbling down. So I think I'm going to set my model. I'm going to set this on the 7th day, when they're going to walk round the walls again on the 7th day, and they've done it 6 times, and they're just about to do it the 7th time. And what happens on the 7th time? They all make a lot of noise, they blow their horns and they scream at the tops of their voices, and all the walls come crumbling down. But I don't want my walls to come crumbling down, so we're going to stop our story just then. Alright?
Kingdom come, may your will be done here on earth.
What a great morning it's been. Let me finish with a prayer. Thank you, God, that you sent us your Son, Jesus, to show us how to live our lives. Help us to learn how we can trust you more with each and every day. Help us to know that you have our best interests at heart and that you care so much about us. Lord God, whatever we face this week, help us to trust you. Amen. See you again next week.